Hey, welcome to Anecdope, where I piece together dope stories about hip-hop legends. Wu-Tang Clan and the Fugees don't often get mentioned in the same sentence. Wu-Tang stands for gritty underground rap, while the Fugees enjoyed major commercial success with their album The Score. But in the 90s, they often crossed paths, and their encounters usually ended in chaos. The instigator? You probably guessed it, the Wu-Tang's Old Dirty Bastard. Like most ODB stories, this one gets pretty wild, so strap in for the ride. Our story begins in 1994. The Fugees are struggling to make a splash with their debut album, Blunted on Reality, but they've been booked to perform at a hip-hop night hosted by KRS-One. ODB happens to be at the venue, and although he's not scheduled to perform, he persuades KRS-One to let him on stage. ODB's former manager, Dante Ross, tells the story.
Dirty's like, yo, God, I gotta rock. I wanna rock. Yo, can I rock? And KRS-One is known to ambush a show. So he liked to stir the pot, and he was like, word, you got your music, son? He was like, yeah.
ODB has a cassette tape on him with songs from his forthcoming album, Return to the 36 Chambers, the dirty version, and he's ready to give the crowd a taste.
So he comes out, and over his vocals, he does Brooklyn Zoo and Shimmy Shimmy. The Fugees are on the side of the stage, furious, and they can't get Dirty off the stage, every crowd goes crazy. So the Fugees are pissed.
So ODB has bum rushed the stage, he's rocked the crowd into a frenzy. Now it's the Fugees' turn to perform, and they're feeling the pressure.
Pras is dumb mad, he has his sunglasses on, he runs out super hyped because he's gonna rock the crowd, and he hits the monitor, trips over and falls in the audience.
Damn.
And like 300 people start laughing, and Dirty was like, yo, you seen that, right? I was like, yeah, he's like, we're out, and we left.
After that painful first encounter, a few months pass before they run into each other again when the Fugees are added to the bill of a Wu-Tang Smith & Wesson concert. This time, ODB doesn't just steal the show, he also jacks their ride. Here's Wyclef recalling what happened.
We had a small Winnebago, you know what I mean? And ODB came, he was like, I love the Fugees.
Right.
I love the girl, but I'm gonna whip somebody ass today. I want that Winnebago. We had to take everything out of the Winnebago, and ODB took our Winnebago.
Get the fuck out of here.
Shit all the way. Yeah.
You let ODB punk you out your Winnebago down.
I'm not a punk, but you gotta know when you outnumbered. Wu-Tang had something they used to say back in the days. They go, "Sue, my nigga. 1,000 niggas show up. What the fuck you want me to do?"
Eventually, Clef does muster up the courage to get the Winnebago back. He gathers his Haitian fam and he tracks down ODB, aka Osiris, at a nightclub.
I start to walk up to him, and Osiris looks at me. He puts his two hands and then just looks at me, and then he bows down. And he brings his head back up and he goes, I love the Fugees.
So the Fugees get their Winnebago back, and soon after, their luck begins to change. In 1996, their second album, The Score, is released. It blows up and becomes one of the best-selling hip-hop albums of all time. Over the next few years, the Fugees focus on their solo careers. Wyclef is the first to release a solo project with The Carnival, which sells 2 million copies and is lauded by the critics. Next in line for a solo album is Pras. He and Wyclef are in the studio working on a song called Ghetto Superstar for the Bulworth soundtrack when their old friend, Dirty, stumbles into the studio. Here's Pras telling the story to Vlad TV.
He walked in my session by mistake. I don't know if he was drunk, but I know he didn't know the state he was in. So meaning like, I was in California, he thought he was in New York City.
Given Dirty's antics a few years earlier, you can't really blame Pras for being less than enthusiastic to see Dirty at this point. But he remains courteous and he plays along.
The music is looped in the background. It's being played. Finally, he's like, yo, what's that? I'm like, oh, this is something I'm working on. What? Put it up. So the engineer turns it up a little. Man, shit's hot. I need to get on this. Thinking to myself, all right. He goes in the booth, lay his vocals. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna erase this shit.
As ODB's getting ready to record his vocals in the booth, Wyclef is sitting behind the mixing boards, not really sure what to expect.
This dude goes in the booth, man, and literally
for 2 minutes straight. He just gets on the mic, the beat playing, and he's like, so you're like, yo, this nigga calling the dolphin. 2 minutes into the record, he just spazzes into the craziest verse.
My eyes are sore, being a senator behind closed doors, hitting truth to the seafloor.
Everybody, including Pras, agrees Dirty's verse is fire, and they're keeping it. And apparently, ODB's influence on the song doesn't end there. According to R&B singer Maya, it was ODB that picked out her voice for the chorus, plucking her from obscurity.
ODB actually gave me the rundown later on and said, oh my goodness, I heard your voice. And they had all kinds of different singers on the chorus, but I chose your voice. I said, whoever that girl is, that's it. So he was actually the decision maker.
Now, at this point, I should mention that Wyclef's version of the story is a little bit different. According to Clef, he's the one who selected Maya, and he also came up with the idea to feature ODB on the song.
I was like, this record needs a twist. We got Pras from the Fugees, we got Maya. Yo, so I called, I said, we need ODB on this track. And I remember bringing Osiris in the studio.
I couldn't verify which version of the story is correct. Either Pras is making things up or Wyclef is taking credit for things that he didn't do. Let me know which of the two you guys think it is in the comment section below. Either way, what we do know is that Ghetto Superstar becomes a bona fide hit, and Dirty's verse has a lot to do with it.
It's all together now in the hood.
Now you have to imagine that for Pras, the song's success is kind of bittersweet. On the one hand, he has his first solo hit.
Shit turned on hot.
On the other hand, he has to spend more time with Dirty. As you might expect, the promotional tour for Ghetto Superstar doesn't run all that smoothly. During performances, Dirty forgets his lyrics.
I'm tired of everything that I say. I forgot the words, but it's all good. Yeah. It's all good.
Interviews don't really go much better. Dirty being Dirty, he keeps things a little bit too real.
What do you guys do to give back to the community? What is going to be your theme for the community?
Nothing.
And then things come to a dramatic climax at the MTV Video Music Awards. The Ghetto Superstar crew are on stage performing their song, and at the end of their performance, pyrotechnics are supposed to detonate across the front of the stage. As Pras begins counting down to the explosion, ODB stumbles towards the flash pots that are about to be detonated.
5, 4, 3.
In the footage of the performance, you can actually see Pras swooping in to pull ODB away at the last moment.
2, 1.
Quote, ODB almost got killed. If something had happened to him, no one would ever be able to use pyro again. It would have messed it up for everyone. The fact that Pras seems more concerned about the pyrotechnics industry than the well-being of ODB probably says a lot about his tolerance levels for ODB at this point. Nonetheless, that day he may well have saved ODB's life. Sadly, ODB passed away 6 years later in 2004. At a special tribute show in 2006 during the Rock the Bells Festival, former Fugees Lauryn Hill dropped by for a special surprise set. Wyclef continues to praise ODB in interviews, and even Pras now shows nothing but love for the man that was a thorn in his side for so many years.
He's one of these artists that like came out of nowhere and will never be duplicated. Like what he did was so different.
Genius.
Rest in peace, Russell Jones, aka Old Dirty Bastard. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button. The next episode is going to feature one of the OGs of West Coast gangster rap and his relationship to the Black Eyed Peas. Thank you for tuning into this one. I'll catch you next time. Peace.